The following program is made possible in part by a grant from Bankers Life, Nebraska.
And I developed a series of slides which dealt with where I live, my house. So I can say, this is where I live. I live in a house in Speer, Nebraska. This is my kitchen. And I would share this with the people in the audience. And they could see that the things that I see are very simple. With simple plants and simple kitchens. Kitchens aren't that different. And then people, as they saw this presentation, even though this was in my house, they said to themselves, that's like my house. Well, I see that kind of stuff. I mean, I look at a world like that, but I don't see it. One of the concepts is that the light changes things. The very fact that we have a big light outside, it's called a sun. Objects don't look the same depending upon how the light shines on objects. In my slides, I have some pictures of some cracked windshield of a car. From the outside, if you look at the windshield, you see that the cracks are basically white. And if you crawl inside the car and look at the same windshield, you see that the cracks are black. So imagine there are two people in the car, or one person's inside the car, one person's outside the car, and they're looking at the same thing. And one person says, from the outside says, the cracks in the glass are white. And the man inside says, you're wrong, mister, they're black. But really, they're both right. They see it from two different points of view. And what they have to do to understand each other is that they have to shift places. Tomatoes are always green. Our tomatoes are still green, and it just seems like it takes so long for them to get ripe. But red tomatoes are beautiful, and people are attracted to red tomatoes, mostly because red is a very attractive color. And so we have certain prejudices about color, about what we'll look at and what we'll not look at. But when you look through a camera, or when you see a slide on the screen that I've just taken one fragment of reality, just a little section of it, and isolated it. I think also the slides that I use, since they're pictures of real things, it finally occurs to people that maybe more art is based on reality than they realize, and maybe artists really are close to the ground and close to the soil and close to culture and close to happenings and events, and that this is the subject that artists use. This is the material that he uses for his art.
Findings make up a large part of the art world and life of Reinhold Marxhausen, whether they be fragments of reality as captured in his slides or the discarded junk and scraps from a factory. As a professor of art for more than 20 years at Concordia Teachers College in the small community of Seward, Nebraska, his unique findings have received national critical acclaim. He has shared his philosophy and style of art awareness with thousands of children and adults during a year-long tour of communities in 47 states, and has helped countless people to see in a new way through his slide presentations that everything has its beauty. As an artist who works with art experiences, the art of Reinhold Marxhausen often comes through the process of discovery, as exemplified by his sound sculptures, which have gained him recognition as part of the vanguard of sound sculptors.
Well, one day I decided to make a piece of sculpture. I thought that maybe the thing had a sound in it. So just out of curiosity, it's not likely that people listen to doorknobs, and in a sense I was doing something which you ordinarily don't do, and that's listen to a doorknob. So I checked around the room to see whether there was anyone around or not. And then I put the doorknob to my ear, and I plucked the wires, and there was a sound. And it was such a delightful sound, why I found the first person I could find and said, here, I want you to listen to something. So I went like that. Said, wow! So then right away I made a stereo. I took another doorknob, put some more wires on it, and so I got two of them, so then I could put it over my head like this, and then feel the sound in both ears. And I remember walking through the campus wearing this thing and plucking little wires, and people were saying, what are you doing? Because the nice thing is that no one else can hear it. And the point of the story is that I never did make the piece of sculpture. I started out to make a piece of sculpture, but then I found something better, and I ended up doing variations on the theme of sound sculpture based on doorknobs. And so often when we do things, we decide what to do and we go right ahead and do it. But I think the artist sometimes stops in the middle, or he might have a better idea. And the doorknob acts as a resonating chamber. The sounds cannot be heard by anyone else except the one who's participating in it. So it's a very much of an introspective kind of sound machine. This one had chrome plated. That's a nice one.
As a practicing artist, Marx works in many mediums. In his commissioned works, he tries to use materials which will complement the space in which his art object will reside. In the community theater in Lincoln, Nebraska, the lobby walls are constructed of grooved cinder block. Marx designed a dimensional mural by fitting wood and mirrors into the grooves of the cinder block. He wanted a mural which reflected a different design from every direction.
So as the people mill around in the lobby, this mural changes and reflects the attitudes and the colors of the clothes that the people are wearing.
On the campus of the college in Seward, where he teaches, he designed and built a sculpture for the library.
I decided to design something which was away from the wall, and so that it uses the space out here a little bit more, rather than gluing something against the wall. And then having it three-dimensional like this so that the sun can play on its surfaces. Boy, that's really heavy.
But of all the commissions, Marx is probably best known for, and most proud of, two large mosaic murals in Nebraska's state capitol building in Lincoln. He was chosen from a national competition of artists and sculptors.
This building was built just for the mural. When I got the commission to do it, we converted Doris's garden into our building. And so we took the sides of the mural plus 5 feet in each side for some room, and all the pieces were cut, and they were laid on into this dimension here out of plywood. Then I spent about a year cutting up wood and all the little pieces of glass and filled that surface, 13 feet by 18 feet. It's like there were 50 large pieces. It was like a big jigsaw puzzle. So we took those big puzzle pieces and installed them. Then sometime after that, I got to do the second one. This place in the studio here is my place, and my family seldom comes into this place. My wife seldom comes in here. My boys don't come in here. So when I come in here to work, I'm always by myself, and I guess I'm pretty much of a loner, and I like being in here, and because I can do the things that I want to do. I always wanted to be an artist, ever since I was this very small boy, and I did lots of drawings. And all the time that I was growing up, even though I liked art and did a lot of drawings, I never did any paintings. Because I always thought, well, there must be a right way of painting. Someday I'll take some lessons. Someday somebody will show me how to do art. Then I signed up for my first oil painting class, and this I looked forward with a lot of anticipation and excitement and enthusiasm. And I'll never forget that day. We had a still life set up of a violin and a record album cover and a piece of sheet music and stuff like that. And the instructor, I stretched the canvas, got the canvas all laid out. The instructor told me to draw it in first. So I made the drawing on the canvas of the still life. Then I went downtown and bought a pallet with a little hole in for your thumb, the round pallet. And I bought the two little tin cans where you put the turpentine and the linseed oil in it. And I bought the right kind of brushes. And then I bought some paint, and I got them all out there in the chromatic colors. Then I put up my hand and asked for the instructor. So now, after 24 years of goofing off and waiting around, he was finally going to tell me now how to paint, and I'll make my first painting. So he came up to me and says, "What do you want?" I said, "I'm ready." Now I'm ready to paint. So he said, "Go ahead and paint." Well, and he walked away. So I looked at the still life and looked at the back of the record album cover, and the back was black. And I said, "That's black." So I took my brush and put it in the black, and I made the first stroke, and that was my first stroke in my artistic career. That. So I made my first painting. And after I thought about it for a while, I realized that there was no answer. This guy didn't give me any answers. I just waited for 24 years for an answer, and there was no answer. He didn't tell me how to paint. He just told me to go ahead. And I made my first painting. It was a very good painting. I still have it. And the more I realized this, the madder I got. I got mad at my parents and the educational system and the high schools and colleges, all the places that had the right answers and all the people tell you how to do things. And I was so angry that I just painted, I guess, like Van Gogh. I got a bunch of paper, I got some watercolors, and on a Saturday I'd get up early in the morning and I'd paint in the alleys of Chicago from early morning till late at night. I gave up eating, I gave up sleeping, and I just painted in this frenzy because I realized that the answers were in me. I just have to go and get to work. I remember when the kids were kind of small, and we had a three-man show at Creighton. Took our kids along to the show, and they looked around. "Hey, Dad, isn't this yours?" "Yeah, that's right, it's mine." "Well, what's it doing here?" "Well, on exhibit." And then I remember there was a small thing that I had. And Carl said, "What's that number next to that thing?" I said, that's how much it costs." It was like $45 or something for just a small thing. And Carl chewed me out for charging that much for that thing. He said, "Oh, Dad, you shouldn't charge that much for that. That's just, you know, a little stone with some nails and stuff that was in our house, and you shouldn't." Oh, he was really upset. That's it. My whole family, I really kind of stand in awe of them because they have such tremendous gifts of their own.
I sometimes think I sweep this corner more than my house, you know, really.
And the things that Doris does, I could never do. And then I guess maybe I do things that they can't do. And so I guess the four of us just respect each other's ability and gifts and try to support each other. Many houses are so insulated and isolated that the people spend so much time in the house. You know, the TV keeps them there and all kinds of other things that keeps them in the house, that they rarely see the outside as being something that's visual or that somebody else can enjoy or not enjoy. And many homes have no planting program at all, so they ignore the shrubs and ignore the trees. And they envy someone else who has a nice yard with nice trees, as if the trees grew all by themselves, really. That you have to put forth some kind of an effort to make this a pleasant place. Don't hurt yourself. Great toy.
Hey, earthworms and interesting things.
Yes.
This thing needs... Don't.
I think it'll all come apart.
See, sure, you can just do this, but don't do it. This is fantastic. There's green and red and orange.
Oh, that's beautiful.
But that's an old one from last year. As soon as we have a slightly warm day...
Put your hand in here, Doris. Put your hand in there. Come on. Right in there. Feel soft. Isn't that wild? That's all solid.
Well, it's
not
not exactly
sawdust,
but sort of.
But the insects did that. It's just like our attitudes toward mountains. And some people climb a mountain because it's there, and some people like to look at a mountain. But then some people would rather just take a mountain and fill up a valley. And I can see a lot of Nebraskans who just like to have everything nice and flat. That's very practical, so they can farm. Nebraska's for farming. Let's get everything down flat. And I can see a lot of people would be anti-tree, really.
Oh.
I think so. I mean, why would they cut them down?
Harsh.
Why would they cut down so many of them? Just to make a nice straight cement highway go straight from this town to this town. Why would they cut those down? I mean, they're anti-tree people, really. This tree's only 3 years old.
Oh.
I think with the introduction of gardens and front yards, and we talked about mounds and planting trees, I think there's a chance to make your home a park or a playground or a garden, you know, with corn in it. It's really going to go this year. Are we going to put some flowers here?
Yeah, I think so.
On our mound? Just wild
I
flowers.
ordered some stuff, that notice I got today. Remember those crazy fields of flowers we saw above San Diego? Well, I ordered some like that.
Well, I think that'll be nice.
But this one's our favorite.
Yeah,
You know, white pine is soft. You don't hurt yourself.
How far do you think we should cut it up this year?
We're not cutting any tree.
People across the street over here needed some trees and lacked some trees, and we just said we would, if we provided the trees, we buy the trees, and we'll plant them for you. Would you mind if we planted this tree in your yard? Well, most of the time, there's a chance of getting a free tree, and they say, yeah, we don't care. Doris has a little nursery in a garden, and she puts little plants in there and little cuttings and trimmings, and she grows these little trees and plants, and in the spring of the year, she gives them to the neighbors and offers them to people in the surrounding area. A chance to get free plants.
This is my corner. This is our biggest leaf pit. It goes down, about a foot below the ground. And I can get out here and absolutely forget everything then, if I need to. I think that's the whole merit of the nature scene or whatever. It's too crowded in the corner.
Huh?
It's too crowded in the corner. I don't know where I move now.
Well, I want to be doing something.
I know that. We could dump it right on top of this. And he really does the actual planting of more of the trees. I plant it and order it, and the kids do the muscle work and haul the dirt around, and he plants them.
That's right. I like to dig in the dirt and dig up dirt. And I teach ceramics, you know. I'm always working with clay anyway, and I just like to get my hands in the soil. That's therapy for me. I like to think of people being in one of either two categories. One person who is constantly searching for something, and a person who is a finder, a searcher and a finder. And I think there's a big difference in attitude in these two people, kinds of people. The person who is searching, constantly searching is always unsatisfied because he has some preconceived ideas about beauty or what he likes, what's right, what he needs to like. The finder, he's most often satisfied because he doesn't have some big plan about what his needs are. I think the best story I can tell to illustrate this was when I was going through a pile of rubble at an old mining camp one summer, and I was looking at different things, and a bunch of people came by, and one woman asked, what are you looking for? And I said, I don't know. And it was evident that I had a whole pile of neat things there, and so she asked the question again, what are you looking for? And I said, I don't know. And she was asking the wrong question. If she would have asked, what are you finding, then I could have told her I found this, and I found that, and I found this, and I found that. And I think that's a good story to illustrate the difference between the seeker and the finder. This is where the Hughes brothers dump some of the stuff that they don't need at the factory. Sawdust and chips and shavings and all the things that are in this landfill area are things that have been discarded from the factory. And I thought we would just come out here and look at some of this stuff and gather up anything that we found out here that was interesting. Have you, what are you finding?
I don't know what it is, but you can take it apart.
You can take it apart, yeah. I notice there's some red wire and some green wire. You know, have any ideas what you could do with that wire?
Nothing else, you could always make some kind of jewelry.
Jewelry, yeah, good idea. I've been using the pieces of wood and the pieces of metal they've been throwing away for years. I've been using them in my work. I think it occurred to me that maybe the people who work in a factory would like to see what is possible when people actually recycle the stuff that they throw away. That might be a good thing to look at. Here's some yellow plastic banding strips that are apparently used to package some materials. And this is some plastic string or rope that can be taken apart and expanded into a whole new kind of material. And all kinds of different kind of pieces of wood. Some have grooves in them like this. Interesting pattern. And then I evolved the idea of getting all the elementary schools, the high schools, and the college here in this small community, and get everyone involved in seeing what we could do with the pieces of wood and pieces of metal. And I think those would be nice for first, second grade. And the kids will take those and glue them together and into a piece, and they'll paint it all. And really nice. Now, if you had to make pieces like this, it'd take you a long time. But here they are, already made, raring to go. And so all the schools in the community worked with this material and produced stuff. I think that's how I started. Would it be possible to have those people see, to use discarded materials as the media for a month or so? And let's just make a bunch of stuff.
I wonder if you can hang some closer together.
Maybe you get some idea. But here's what a few of them. Careful you don't chip him off. Now, even your head, I think we'd be better off if we take the coping saw and come on down and cut him off a little bit. Now, take those.
Can I use those two pieces? Is that all the hammers there is?
You have to look for more wood. That would be the next step, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I wanted to do this also because a factory like that is a resource. They have machines there. They do things. I think about all of the tools and equipment in this factory, and that the factory doesn't work Saturdays and Sundays. Would there be a possibility that there can be classes in that building so that we could have a class in woodworking or metalworking in a creative way for the employees as a night class, Sunday night class or a Saturday night class?
It's too bad that maybe this wasn't a little darker, you know, that it would relate more to the barrel. Right now it pushes back against that stack of wood maybe too much.
The lines are wider apart in the front, and then the ones in the back are tinier. That too.
Get lower that ceiling, too.
It's a good place and a good problem, I think, to find equivalent textures.
She's going to bring another one, so maybe we can put it side by side. Right over there, with the nails on the floor.
Put this up over there?
Yeah.
One nail? What do you think?
Right over here. Well, listen, why don't you hang it on these pegs here? And you nail the sticks on the side, and you get this box, and then you can make some crisscrosses, and then you can just tack right into that. Then we had the art show in the factory, and that kind of thing doesn't happen unless you have this kind of a happening that we had there to jar the people, to see their factory in a new way, and to think about new possibilities. And this is why I wanted to do this for the Hughes brothers. I wanted the people in this town to see that art can be discovery. When you find something beautiful, that's like finding art.
Wave it in the breeze till it dries. Okay. Just like a factory.
And that these people could see that the stuff that they were throwing away was just something that they throw away, but then somebody else uses it to make art. And that art is not something elitist necessarily and just for certain people. You find one you liked? Yep. Okay. But it's within the realm of anyone.
It takes an artist to make something like this.
He enjoys doing it too.
I hope so. I mean, sure to think up something every week.
Mark? Fine. There's a whole new feeling in the worker. There's a whole new rapport between the factory and the community. Up until then, people had never even been in the factory, and they didn't know what happened there.
I think it's a good deal. I know there's never been this many people that have ever been in Hughes Brothers.
I think the very fact that an insurance company has an artist in their employee does something to the employees. Whatever I do gets them to relate to art in some way. Maybe what I do gets them into a gallery or gets them to see. And imagine working in an insurance company and doing office work there, and at the same time thinking about the possibility that art relates to them and their life through me and what I do. And one of the projects I did there was to go around the building with my camera and to take interesting pictures of a regular office building, an office building that has typewriters and files and cabinets, and all office buildings are alike. And I did a series of slides showing interesting things in an office building, and these slides were then shown to the employees in the dining hall, and about 400 employees saw their world in this new way. Now they have color reproductions of a lot of the pictures that I took, and they're mounted in the lobby, and they're all abstractions of their world. And it's interesting that this company had an abstract painting in the lobby for many years, and the people didn't like it. They resented it. Now they're looking at that blue painting in a new way, and they're saying, well, gee, maybe there's something to this. And so they've accepted, they've taken a big step in seeing other art. Oh, just like Christmas. Open them up.
Ah, I like that. That's my pencil rack.
It is?
Sure.
Boy, that's nice.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. Got them all sharp and ready to go. All right. Oh, golly. Did I take that?
Yeah, you took that. That's some kind of EDD
Beautiful.
gear.
What are those?
I don't know. There's some kind of plastic rings. You don't have the slightest idea.
Oh, man. You sure that was my slide?
That's your slide, Marks.
I don't recognize it.
Hey, we're in the paper business.
That's number one. That's the first slide of the thing.
Hey, see if you remember what this is.
Boy, that's nice.
Remember what that is?
Yeah, scissors.
Scissors.
Yeah. Hey, that's nice. Oh, zowie.
That's your red coat. Remember that?
Zowie. Gosh.
That's a red coat sleeve.
Did you crop this? I mean,
Yeah,
did you?
sure. That's crop. Well, in about 2 weeks, we're going to have a hanging. Put them all over the building.
Oh, are you?
You bet.
And different
We
offices.
got your bunch downstairs, you see. As
Well,
a
they're gonna-
display, we're going to leave those there. We're going to put these in offices and in hallways all around the building.
I find interesting things in my life, in my backyard, and wherever I go. I can find nice things or things that are beautiful or interesting. But if I decide that I'm searching for some philosophical thing, or I'm looking for something to fulfill my life. I might go through my whole lifetime not finding that thing. And so it is a moment to moment, a day to day, finding of interesting things wherever you are. Hello!
Hi. I can't help but be curious. What's going on?
We're taking pictures of Lexington. It's just an interesting town, that's all.
Those were windows. When we remodeled, we filled all that.
Oh, I see. I can see that.
Little windows
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
see? But see, originally that building was a bank.
This morning, as I started to take the pictures, I wanted to stay downtown with the stores, the store tops, and even the place where they're unloading cattle. I was really impressed with all the red fences last night, just to see the red fences. And I guess I'm attracted to patterns and to interesting combinations of colors. I think that's why I enjoyed Lexington project so well, because it involved walking in a strange area, looking real hard, and finding all these things. And all those things that I found, 300 pictures that I took, those are 300 findings as far as I'm concerned. So I've come here with an outsider's point of view and with this intensive, aggressive approach to searching out interesting combinations of colors, forms, shapes, and so forth. Well, I think I'm done here. I'm gonna go to another place. Morning has broken. When we come back later on and show these slides to the people, they're really getting to look at abstractions of their community, and I'm forcing them to look at lines, I'm forcing them to look at colors, I'm forcing them to look at the elevators in the morning and before the sun sets. See, now those elevators are nice and white. Oh, that's nice. Usually we think of the white elevator as being white, and blue is dark, and so the white against the white would be lighter, and the blue would be darker. But this morning, the grain elevator was darker. This town has a grain elevator, and so does every little town in Nebraska has a grain elevator. And that has certain forms to it which is the same. And so there is a similarity in town. There are no patterns for that, you know? Circles and squares in the back. So like this. One of the things I look for is pattern, and I am attracted to pattern. So that's an easy thing to respond to, and there's lots of pattern all over. Series of circles, like if I see a bunch of barrels piled up, and some of the barrels are blue and some are brown and some are red, and you get in on that, you can have a nice, composition of just circles, circles of different colors. So that would be under pattern also. Get them head on here. There's some nice paint on that piece of metal. It's beautiful. Let's see. Another thing that I look for is unusual comings together of 2 or 3 colors. Good. Now, when the artist paints and when he works with color, you know, he puts colors together. And the layperson, when he looks at colors, he identifies the object, like that house is red, that house is blue, that car is brown, and so forth. They see the color of the object, but they just see that object isolated. But I usually see the color with something else. You know, the red bar, or the red car next to the green building. And those two colors together produce some kind of excitement. And at different times of the day, you have certain comings together of colors, and these colors and these combinations change. This morning I went to the lumber yard. There was a large Pittsburgh paint sign, you know, big letters, Pittsburgh paints. And each letter was a different color. And so I was down on the sidewalk real close and getting in real tight and getting, you know, just sections of letters, like just a part of the P and a section of the I and maybe a section of the T. And so that as it was framed out, I was getting some nice, maybe 3 different colors and 3 different shapes. That's enameled paint. It's a beautiful sign. I think if this is recorded on film, if it wasn't overcast, we'd get some blue and green together. Paint some of these buildings alfalfa green instead of aqua. Wow, you know, it could be very nice to have this green color. But when they begin to see that water tower and some of the other things in this town as an object to meditate upon, then that man leaves Lexington, you see, and enters into the world of art. And I think that it's really kind of a chance to fly away from Lexington. Dealing cards. By George, it came out. And these slides will become the property of the community. They will be used. They can be used by church organizations and civic groups. They can be used in the 1st grade and the 2nd grade, junior high. In their art appreciation program, they can be using these slides, and they can begin to see their community. Oh, that was a good box. And so in our Lexington project and the project down at the Hughes plant, and the things that I try to do with my students is to give people a vocabulary. I use this word quite a bit. A vocabulary of what makes something interesting. And not to always have some preconceived ideas about things. Just like you can go on a vacation and you can plan before you leave exactly what you're going to do at every place and every stop. And I think sometimes vacations are very boring because people have this grand plan and they know exactly what they're going to do every night and every day. And sometimes these places that are supposed to be interesting are disappointments because you had some preconceived ideas about how great this place would be, and when you get there, you say, well, it's just an ordinary hole in a wall, or it's an ordinary object, or even a famous person becomes just an ordinary person when you finally meet them. So we build up these images about places and people. Today, I'd like to take you on a little trip, a little walking trip. And maybe all of us by now have formed some opinions about how things look, how trees look, and how clouds look, and how buildings look, depending upon where we lived and what our parents told us and so forth. And so you have to forget about all of your biases and all of your prejudices and all of the things that you think about when you think about trees or about buildings, and really get to see. And as you walk, I want you to notice that things change. Some things get taller and some things get smaller. Now this tree that we're under is really tall because we're underneath it. But when we go over there and look at this tree is rather small. Now you'll see, if you squint your eyes down, that the baseline where the car is parked by the president's house, that goes right halfway through this little tree. And so really, if you had to measure with your fingers this little tree and the trees by the president's house, this tree is twice as tall as the trees by the president's house. If you don't believe it, if you just take your finger, you're not believing me? You're frowning. You take your fingers like that and put one finger on top of this tree and one on the bottom, and then just kind of move it over and measure the trees by the president's house. And there you see, it's half as tall. Let's stand by this little tree now. Now look how big that little tree is. It's bigger than a music building. See? And it's bigger than everything. So if we had to draw this, we'd draw this tree, and the music building would only be just a small section of that tree. Things don't stay the same. As we see with our eyes, and as we look with our eyes, we really see too many things. You know, we have peripheral vision. That means we can see everything from here to here. I want to give you all one of these pieces of paper. Why don't you just pass those out and, okay, cut a little window. Try to make it as square as possible and about this big. This is going to be a little window. And we're going to look through this. And can you see that it's going to block out everything except that little thing. Now, you can put your arms out like this and only see a nose or an eye or just the teeth or something. Start to look through that arm's length or move it up a little bit closely and start to see little compositions. It's like when you're looking through a camera, when you take a picture, you see little squares of information. These are spaced further apart than these, but actually they're the same distance in reality. They're the same, but where you're standing, these are closer together. And if you look through your little viewfinder, you can see that. If you look down this way, we have 4 identical lights. See the lights, these lampposts? First one is twice as tall as that building. The second one is not as tall. The third one is half as tall. And the fourth one is less. Now, just to know that, you know, if you were to draw this thing, even without having to know about the vanishing point in perspective, you could do a pretty good job once you draw this first post on your page. You know, all the leaves are green, but you look through the viewfinder, you'll see that some are yellow-green, some are blue-green, and brown-green, purple-green, and just to begin to see the variety of greens. And once in a while, you'll see a little bit of red coming in the green, just a little bit, and it really spices it up. I think 22 years ago when I came to this place, I knew all about art. But after 22 years, I don't know what art is. And every day I teach in this place, it's harder and harder for me to teach. Because I'm always trying to discover a better way of doing it. Join them together here. Get this thing up here. There we go. Hey, that's... Where can we get that thing? Hughes Brothers. Let's join this. How can we attach it? When my students do something in class and I know they're doing it wrong, sometimes I don't tell them that they're doing it wrong. If they're using a certain kind of glue instead of Elmer's glue, they'll find out that that glue didn't work. And I won't tell them that they should use another glue. I want them to discover that they made a mistake or they did something wrong. Now, maybe that's a bad way of teaching, but I do that once in a while. You know, I think it'd be nice if we could build this all the way to the ceiling. Now, why is it always falling down? Why is this thing always falling down? And how come you're not getting to the ceiling with it?
Because it'll fall down.
Yeah, why is it falling down?
Can you solve
Yeah. Okay. I'm here this evening to give you a chance to do something creative. Everyone loves coloring books. But that doesn't mean that coloring books are good for you. Coloring books make you feel good because when you have a coloring book, you don't have to make your own mark on the white piece of paper. That's why you feel good. Well, tonight, you might not feel so good because tonight you have to make your own marks. And on the blackboard I've written some themes that have to do with the Lenten story, and I would suggest that you pick one of these themes. I guess you're raring to go, so I say go. You can work together or separately, however you want to do that. Pick a magazine, pick a theme, and find your story tonight. You can choose your own themes if you don't like mine. You can choose your own. Well, that's okay. I realize that in a religious group, there would be a diversity of occupations and professions. So within a church, you would have farmers, and you would have lawyers and doctors and children and teenagers and grandparents and so. And if the subject is art, I would have to appeal to a wide range of diverse feelings and so forth. This is a photograph that's been cut up into little squares. And we have some sheets of black paper, and we'd like to have you use just chalk and chalk in whatever you see white or light in a little square here to enlarge it on a big square, and to try to copy the textures, the roughness, the smoothness, the lights and the darks with the chalk, and then we'll number them on the back and label those. Then we'll put them on the wall over here with masking tape, and we'll see what the picture's about. Okay. If it's real white, press real hard. If it's kind of gray, just kind of try to make it gray. Sometimes you can find a whole ad that has a meaning that relates to the story. See, like the promise of the future, that has to do with like the resurrection or something, see? And it's very exciting to me because everybody's excited. It's a one-shot thing. They're doing things they've never done before. They're sharing with each other. And that's really, maybe to me, more exciting than the day-by-day going to the classroom, seeing the same people.
I'm almost out of chalk.
I know. It's about finished. Let's go. Let's finish up. Show and tell time is coming up pretty soon. Let's go. Gotta keep moving. Okay. Let's see. Should we start our show and tell? These are all original works of art we're looking at tonight. Each one is an original no one has ever seen before this evening. And you made them. They're all yours. Okay. The picture on the wall, I wanted to do tonight to show that you can do something like this in your church or in your parish hall or Sunday school walls or your room at home. If you would like to have a big picture on the wall or a ceiling or whatever, all I did, I took a picture from a magazine. Took a photograph from a magazine, cut the photograph in 1-inch squares. See, just cut it 1-inch squares. Then I mounted the squares on little pieces of paper. I brought them along tonight. And we used black construction paper and blackboard chalk. And each person, there were about 4 or 5 people working on those this evening. And the students took the chalk and then just drew on the large square what they saw on a small square. So you just take a small square and just enlarge it. And not all of us can paint or draw pictures, but each one of us can find something that we're looking for, something that relates to our idea. And I would encourage you as families or as children or teenagers to do exactly what we did tonight. And I say to you that some of these things are more valuable and more precious than a lot of pictures that you can buy in a store, mostly because you did them. Gee. I ran out of film.